SNP Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, was challenged over the country's rejection of the NHS's Track and Trace app as the SNP member said the level of infectiousness needs to come down before the app can be applied. The SNP's Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, argued against the use of the NHS's contract tracing app which is currently being trialled on the Isle of Wight as he said Scotland already has something like that. He then went on to admit Scotland doesn't have a support strategy in place to test, trace and isolate coronavirus sufferers. BBC host Justin Webb asked, "At the moment the Scottish Government aren't taking any part in it, is that because you think it technically may not work or do you have other objections?" Speaking to BBC Radio 4's Today programme, Mr Swinney said, "We have had an existing contract tracing system in place which is run through under the Office of Public Health Scotland which essentially does much the same thing as the app. It looks very specifically of the contacts of an individual and makes sure we identify somebody with the virus." Mr Webb interjected, "But it can't show an accidental transmission. Say you sit next to someone on a train, the app, in theory, would help. Are you suggesting that you're not convinced that it would help?" Mr Swinney continued, "No, what we're saying is we're in the early stages of the discussion about the particular attributes and how it will complement existing tracing systems. We want deeper engagement about the app so we understand all of its attributes because what we haven't placed is a robust test, trace and isolate support strategy in Scotland. We have to get the level of infectiousness down within the country so that we can then apply that system and apply the discipline that comes with that. If the app adds something to that then we are open to considering that. It comes as the use of an automatic contact tracing smartphone app will only be recommended if the First Minister is confident it works and is secure," Scotland's National Clinical Director has said. Professor Jason Leach said apps that automatically trace contacts need to be used by around 60% of the population to be effective in public health terms. He was asked about the Scottish Government's Test, Trace, Isolate (TTI) strategy on BBC Radio Scotland's Good Morning Scotland programme on Tuesday. On Monday, Nicola Sturgeon set out plans to recruit 2,000 contact tracers to enable the strategy to go ahead, with a daily testing capacity of 15,500 needed. The UK government is currently trialling the use of a Bluetooth-based app that can track and trace contacts between users, alerting people if someone they interacted with has displayed symptoms or tested positive for the virus. Professor Leach said, "It's being tested later this week in the Isle of Wight and Scotland is involved in its development. But we want to be sure, as you heard the First Minister say yesterday, of the security of that app, of its use, that it will work, before we layer it on top of what we're already planning. We don't want to build from it, we want to use it as an additional element." He said such apps could not simply be bought off the shelf on an international level, saying they vary hugely in their ability to work.